Welcome to the Landlord Diaries, where we talk about midterm rentals and the opportunities behind them. We'll share landlord stories, talk about maximizing investment potential, and discuss how to live the very best landlord life. This podcast is proudly brought to you by Furnished Finder, the leader and largest online marketplace for midterm rentals. Remember to like and subscribe if you enjoy our content.
Hey, it's your team of the Landlord Diaries, Kelly Bailey, Katie Lyon, coming to you from the Furnished Finder marketing team. We are both midterm rental investors, and we have a great episode today. Katie, what did you end up taking away from Chris?
Well, yeah, we get to talk to Chris today, and he has this great and expanding portfolio in Des Moines, Iowa. And I think he has gotten really, really good at serving tenants and being so hospitable. And he also is just like really strategic. He's strategic with how, he handles leads on Furnished Finder. And he's strategic with how he has grown his portfolio and partnerships. And it's just really great to connect and hear someone like him who has just been able to do everything so exceptionally. So there's going to be some great nuggets for you guys inside this one. And I can't wait for you to listen.
Today we travel to Des Moines, Iowa. We talk with Chris Dickey about his 15 midterm rental units and his co-ownership in top shelf property management. At this point in time, Chris advertises his midterm rentals exclusively on Furnished Finder. Chris, we're so thankful to have you with us today. How are you doing?
Appreciate it. Yeah. Good morning. Great to be here. Honored to be on this. Thank you.
You are welcome. We met Chris at the BPCon 2023. It was so great getting to see all of our Furnished Finder advocates there and meet a lot of new enthusiasts to the midterm rental space. So let's start off with, what has your journey been like into real estate investing, and specifically, how did you get to midterm rentals?
Yeah, it's been kind of a long drawn out process. My wife and I started investing about 2010. We moved out of our townhome and we kept it as a rental when we were building our new house. And from there, we just decided, how can we scale this? And so the success we had with that townhome to get us started, we just kind of started stacking on top of that. So really got into it in about 2019, started doing the BRRRR method. And from there, we just kind of built our portfolio and then started introducing the different strategies from there.
Okay, and let's pause. Tell everybody what the BRRRR method is quickly, just in case someone doesn't know.
Yep. The BRRRR method is the buy, rehab, rent, refinance, and repeat strategy.
Nice. And how do you use that to get your next properties?
Yeah, so when we started doing some research and education on how we could scale, I found bigger pockets. And so we started connecting with different investors in our area and outside, and just learning and listening to the podcast there. That's where we learned that strategy, started having some meetings with banks. And when the bank told me about something called a HELOC, home equity line of credit, that was really something that did it for us. And then we used that into the BRRRR method, and then kept recycling that same money over and over and over to get more property. And that's where we ended up today.
That's fantastic. So tell us now where your portfolio is. Do you own them all? What types of units are they? Are they all in Des Moines? Give us kind of the breakdown of what your portfolio entails.
So we started off with single family, so finding the distressed properties, doing the full rehabs, and with that BRRRR strategy, then refinancing it out and pulling that initial down payment out, and then using those same funds over and over and repeating that process to build the portfolio. And so now we have a mixture of single families, we have some duplexes, we have some smaller multifamilies, so we have a 4-plex and a 6-plex, and kind of everything in between there.
Love that. So you're at 12 properties total, or is that a higher number or lower? Where are we at?
We have 15 midterm rentals right now.
All right. So Chris, you've got 15 midterm rentals that are a part of your portfolio of about 35 properties. So tell us what your breakdown of those properties look like. How many do you individually own? Do you have any partnerships? What do those partnerships look like? Because we know, like you said, when you're looking to scale, there's a lot of different ways that you can scale. And it's always interesting and insightful to see how people like yourself have done that.
Yeah. So my wife and I have about 26 of the 36 doors ourselves that we started and have grown from there. And then we have some partnerships. So I'm the managing partner of the partnerships. So I own some equity in that, and another partner has some equity in that as well.
But is it truly like an LLC that you guys both own like 50% of, and then you?
Yeah, so it's literally it's a 50-50 split, or in this case it's a, some of these are, it's a 30-33-33-33. So I'm the managing partner of all of them, so I can handle a lot of that front side of it, but we're all splitting it all equally in that sense.
Okay, so you've got 26 that you and your wife own kind of independently. And then another way that you were able to scale is you formed a partnership. And I know there's a lot of ways that people think about partnering when it comes to investment properties. You can do co-hosting, you can do arbitrage, you can do pure like literal partnerships where you're division of equity and things like that. And you have gone down the route where you have formed an LLC with some partners where you guys invest in properties as that LLC, and then you all therefore own a percentage of it, right?
That's correct. Yep. So
Okay.
we all have the equal percentage of that, and we all have our different roles within those LLCs to handle the different aspects of the properties and the investing portion of it.
Yeah.
And then we also have an outside, I also have another one with an arbitrage as well. So we have a lot of different mixtures of the different types of investings that we've introduced to the portfolio as recent as just within the last 12 months.
That's awesome. I think that's great. And I think that's a good example that there's not just one way to scale, right? And especially when you get these partners and partnerships, it's also a really good use that you can do what you're best at, and you can get other partners to come in and do what they're best at. So I love that you've not only done that, but like you said, like you've got an arbitrage partner or two, and then you've just been able to use all these different ways to scale, because sometimes it's hard to figure out the best route to scale, but it seems like you've just been open-minded and trying new things with smart people. Is that right?
That is correct. A lot smarter than myself for sure. And and to your point, Katie, it's adapt. And so
Right.
as these times have changed over the last few years, it's how do we adapt to the market? How do we adapt to the industry? So not only to be able to scale our business successfully and be effective and efficient, but what do we need to do to stay in front of it? And that's kind of the conversations that we've been having with our business partners and my wife and I, and just kind of seeing where we want to go.
For sure. And I want to dive deeper into the midterm rental breakdown. I think you have some duplexes that are all next to each other. I think maybe you have a fourplex and then single family homes, some of those being 2-bedroom single family homes, which I always think are awesome because they're not everyone's sought after size, but they make
Right.
great midterm rentals. So break down the midterm rental properties for us.
Yeah, it's been great. And so we originally had all long term. And then when we had the yearly turnovers, we would be putting a $40,000 rehab into one of our duplexes and one of the sides. 12 months later, we had to put another 6 grand. And so my wife and I, put our heads together and said, hey, there's got to be something different. And that's when I started getting introduced to the midterm strategy. And so we started going down that road and saying, okay, when are leases coming up? What can we do with these, and how quickly can we turn some of these over? And that's when we started doing it. So you can see from my numbers earlier, the majority of our properties that we now own, or the doors, are in the midterm space.
Is that something you're looking to do more of as these long-term leases come up, is keep transitioning some of them?
100%. And so
Love
we
that.
actually have one right now that we're going to go live. We're finishing the rehab on it. We just turned it over, and that's going to be going live here within a week. But I already have a tenant locked into that one too. So we're just going to keep going as these leases expire.
Now, when you're talking about furnishing that number of properties, that's no small expense either. So
Right.
how have you guys been able to balance and manage that? Because I know that's a challenge some of our listeners face is, well, if I'm going to have a furnished property, it needs to be furnished, right? But that's some upfront cost, usually a lot less than a short-term rental because you don't need all the bells and whistles. You just need basic, comfortable furnishings. But on a larger scale, how do you guys kind of manage that?
Yeah, it was a learning experience for sure. This is where my wife shines. I mean, I turn that part over to her, and she's very savvy about where to find things and what to do. And I'd be remiss to not shout out some individuals that actually helped me along the way as far as books. And so the 30-day stay with Sarah and Ziana was fantastic for us. Both my wife and I read that. That helped. And then also the Wire gals, and I know you're very familiar with them.
We love all those ladies.
Yeah, we're good friends with all those guys.
So with Grace and Amelia with the Wire community, I took their boot camp, and so that was a big portion of that, and that's where we learned a lot. And then from there, just balancing that with the purchase of the furnishings and the decor, and just kind of seeing what's going to work was definitely a learning curve for sure. I think we're kind of in a nice little groove here. We kind of know what we got to do depending on the size of the units and how we want to do it.
I love that. There's a lot of resources even within the midterm rental niche here, and it's growing really quickly. And everybody in this industry, from Sarah Weaver and Ziana McIntyre, like you mentioned, and then the Wire, which is WIIRE, with Amelia and Grace, and there's a lot of other kind of leaders and educators in the space, many of which we've had on the podcast. So if you're not familiar with a lot of them and you want to be, browse these episodes, you guys. But everybody is so like welcoming, and it's like there's no gatekeeping of good information, right? Because this industry, unlike short terms, is really like, when you do better, I do better, right? I have a property in Des Moines, and my first thought when you said you have properties in Des Moines is not, oh my gosh, I got to beat him. It's, oh my God, hey, what a cool collaboration opportunity we could have together. And like, if he needs something, I could be there. And if I need something, I'm sure you would be there. And it's such a wonderful little niche of the real estate investing world. And I say little, but it's not. Like it's big and it's getting bigger, but there's space for everyone, right? With a midterm, you need on average like 4 tenants a year. So there is like space for everyone to do so well. And just the networking and the education in the space has been so cool. So
I love that you said that, because the community has been so open. And, we mentioned Amelia earlier. Her and I have had conversations. Like, I mean, we build these relationships with our guests. I mean, we really do. And so you want to take care of them. So if you don't have a spot for them, or, you want to extend them and you can, or whatever the case may be, I've had conversations with Amelia, for example, and we've said, hey, do you have something available? I have a great guest. I just don't have a spot. And so we've collaborated that way. And so I love the fact that you brought that up, because that has been a huge, huge thing for us in the community, just to work together.
Yeah, it is huge, because when you've got 4 guests a year on average, like you only have certain availability, right? So, but it does help your reputation as a landlord. People would still refer you even if they didn't stay with you, but you led them to someone who took good care of them. So it's great. All right, so let's jump into some Furnished Finder and KeyCheck tips, because I know, like Kelly said, you list all of your midterms exclusively on Furnished Finder, which is so cool, and we love to hear that. I want to know more about what led you to that decision. Like, what led you to be like, Furnished Finder is the place and the only place that I need to put these guys?
It's just the success, the productivity of it. I mean, I haven't had to go outside that platform in that sense for my midterms, because we are, I mean, I hate to say zero vacancy, but we're minimal. I mean, all it is just filling in some gaps when we do lock in a guest, but that's all I've had to do. And the leads that come through and the partnership that I have with Furnished Finder is a whole nother level thing that I don't think a lot of people know about. But that's been a big key factor for us, partnering with Furnished Finder. And we've enjoyed that relationship, and they've been instrumental in helping us with little details, whether it's auditing our listings and letting us know, are we missing this? Should we add this to make sure we're keeping with the algorithm? Quarterly Zoom calls to go over some things, what's coming down the pipe for Furnished Finder, and taking some of our feedback and saying, this is what we would like to see different. Can you do this? And then they report back to us, but they've been instrumental as well.
Today's episode is proudly sponsored by Furnished Finder, the ultimate platform for hassle-free midterm rentals. Whether you're a seasoned landlord or just getting started, Furnished Finder has everything you need to find your next tenant. With Furnished Finder, you can say goodbye to booking fees, markups, and commissions, and hello to direct bookings. If you're ready to experience all the benefits renting your property for 30 days or more, head over to furnishedfinder.com where you can list your property for one low annual price. We make it easy to get started.
Oh, I was just going to say we're expanding our resources and kind of our, not only our outward training and education for landlords, but we're also, we've got these things that are already in the works, but then we're actively and currently adding all this stuff. Just a few weeks ago, we did our first live webinar for brand new landlords. We're going to kind of keep expanding that stuff, but you're right. We at Furnished Finder, we genuinely care about the success of our landlords. And we put a lot of effort into resources like this, right? For everyone to be successful. So it's really great to hear that you've been able to utilize those things.
And I want to explain it a little bit further. And Chris, correct me if I'm wrong. But what I hear you saying is when you add a new property, and if you're an active host on Furnished Finder, then one of the first questions you get once you add that new sign up to add a new property, before you've added all your photos, before you've added any details, it says, would you like to upgrade for the Furnished Finder team to be able to assist you with the onboarding process. So that's what Chris is referring to, and it's the growth and partnerships team. They assist with onboarding, educating partners about best practices for their listings, performing periodic audits for their accounts to ensure they get the best services, and providing training sessions as well. And I think you kind of pointed to all of that, Chris. Am I on the right track there? Is that the team that you've been working with, and how you got connected was in the sign-up process?
That is correct. Yeah,
Okay.
I wasn't really aware of it prior to, and when I saw that, I noticed that, and I reached out, and I got an immediate response, and we started having the conversations from there and going through that, and they've been instrumental.
Good.
I love that.
Awesome.
That is amazing. All right. And tell us how KeyCheck has been beneficial to you as well. KeyCheck is our sister company, and it's essentially I always call it a toolbox for landlords of everything they need to make that direct booking. So tell us how that's helped you out as well.
Yeah, essentially, first and foremost, it's a comfortable thing for a guest. I mean, we all know with our guests, they're coming a lot of times to places they've never been. They've never met us as the host. And so I always reference it and say, hey, this is the property management software that we use. It's partnered with Furnished Finder. So when they just hear that, they establish the relationship with them on Furnished Finder. They know it very well. So when you tie that together with KeyCheck, it's a comfortable thing because we all know about the scammers out there. And I just had somebody ask me yesterday, hey, can you do this? Because there's so many scammers, a gal from Florida. So it's just one of those things that it just brings it together, and it just shows that the confidence in being able to sign up, sign the lease, make the payments through there, that they're not going to get scammed. So that's first things first. Second thing is the fact that just walking us through the process of how to make the lease. I mean, you can literally just go on each lease and check the box here, add this here, and then it builds the lease there. And finally, one of the biggest things that I enjoy is just the chat. I mean, that live chat is huge, and I use that time and time again, and they're fantastic.
That's amazing.
Good. Yeah. Chats are always nice. The first thing I always want to know, is it a real person or is it AI? I really love the real person chats.
Kelly's the master. She'll have a customer service email with someone, and she'll be forwarding it to me so we can look it over. And she'll straight up ask the person in the email, are you a human or are you AI? And it's so, I giggle to myself every time.
That's
but
great.
For those wondering, we have real humans, and a lot of them.
Yes.
They are not bots. But it's,
no, and
I
there's a
always
difference.
chuckle.
You can definitely tell for sure.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah.
And Chris, that's actually something that in our first call you said is important to you, is you don't have any automated messaging systems, there is a great tool to use your Furnished Finder messaging templates if you'd like, and you can customize them. And then once you implement the message template, you can still further add details to fit that specific request. But that's something that you emphasize, Chris, is the importance of the human aspect of that communication in your business. Do you want to dive further into that and how it ties into you reaching out to tenant leads and checking Furnished Finder every day for any new leads coming in?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't, I think some people would disagree with this strategy, but I enjoy it. I enjoy the conversation. I enjoy making that human connection. So I go out of my way and I take a lot of time trying to really get to know this individual, and I want them to know me as a person as opposed to just a host. And so it's paid dividends for us in several ways. Not only are we building the relationship, which is awesome, but we talk about that trust. I mean, we have individuals coming from out of state that are just nervous. And so I've had a lot of individuals say, I love the communication. I love just knowing, I feel like I know you, even though we just met. It's one of those things. So that makes us feel good about that. We're providing a good spot for them to live, but having that going above and beyond, and it's really not even going above and beyond. It's just having conversations with individuals so they feel comfortable in the area, in your units, and knowing that you're there if you need something. I'm within 20 minutes of all of my properties. If I ever had that, I never get those phone calls that says you got to come over here. Now we have little things here and there, but the ability to know that, hey, my family is 20 minutes away, it's also a comforting thing as well.
Yeah. I think that's also something you can do in midterms that you can't do in short terms, right?
Right.
I mean, I could name the tenants I have right now, and there's no way if I had the same number of properties I could do that with short term. It's just too much. And I know a lot of like where they're from or what they're coming for, or I know one of them is expecting and one of them goes home on the weekends and things like that. And it does, it goes two ways, because then when you have little blips come up like, oh, the key isn't working, or whatever it is, because stuff comes up, everybody's a lot more understanding and patient when you're working with someone that you know and you like and you trust versus just, your landlord per se. So midterms really give you the chance to form those relationships, which is great.
And going back to what Kelly said, with the duplexes side by side, I mean, just building those relationships. Now, all the referrals are coming from those individuals. And so, we have an individual at one of those duplex we have three in a row, and they're actually working at, it's a traveling professional that's working at a construction site. And so then they get all of their friends or employees that want to be living together, and then they all reach out, hey, what do you have? Where can I go? Is something coming up soon? And so they have their own little community then that they can all live together. But even then, like I said, just getting the phone calls from other individuals saying, hey, such and such gave me your contact information. She's had a wonderful experience there. We're seeing if you have anything else. And to us, that means a lot.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. So we've gone through a lot of the progression of the midterm rental space. And I think one thing that might be kind of fun to do for listeners is, Chris, what does your rental flow process look like from marketing the property brand new all the way to, getting your tenant to move in? What does that look like for you?
Hey landlords, are you ready to level up your rental game and simplify your midterm rental business? Well, get ready to meet your new best friend, KeyCheck. KeyCheck is your all-in-one solution for stress-free property management. With tenant-paid screenings, online rent payment processing, custom lease creation, and a suite of incredible landlord tools, you'll wonder how you ever lived without it. No more chasing down checks or sifting through piles of applications. KeyCheck helps you organize and manage all things landlording in a simple and efficient way. Make landlord life a breeze with KeyCheck, the game changer for modern property owners. Visit keycheck.com to unlock the power of stress-free property management and take your rental business to new heights.
Yeah, so once we are looking at the leases, as we mentioned, for the long-term space, we see what's available. We start prepping for that. So we know when the move-out's going to take place. I already have my contractors that we utilize, so we have an idea. A lot of times they've already been in those properties, so they know what they are. We start working out a game plan. What are we going to have to do? How soon can we do that? Can we start right away? Then I get my wife, Kelsey, as I mentioned before. She'll start kind of looking around to see what we need to start doing for furnishings, where are the deals going on. From there, then once the move out happens, day one, we're in and after it. And so we want to have that rehab done within about a week and a half, depending on the extent of it. From there, we'll actually start advertising on Furnished Finder before it's finished.
Yes.
Yeah. So then, I mean, we'll put a little blip in there saying, hey, either there's going to be furnishings or whatever the situation is. But we'll start doing that because we'll start getting leads because people can move in tomorrow sometimes, or they need something in 3 weeks. So, well, by 3 weeks, it's going to be ready. So we want to see if we can lock somebody in as soon as possible. And then once we start doing that, we answer every single leads, whether it's a match lead, unmatched lead, or direct inquiry. I'm touching base with every single one of those individuals that reaches out or puts something in the system because you never know.
There's a couple really good nuggets you said in there. First of all, people might think that the lead time for a midterm rental guest is months and months ahead. It's often just a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks. I have gotten tenants in the past who are like, I'm looking for somewhere to move in tomorrow. And then you get some people who are looking a little bit further ahead, but it's not very often that you get people that are planning months and months ahead. They're kind of, going a quarter at a time or whatnot. And then how you said that you respond to all of the lead types. When you're in Furnished Finder in your dashboard, there's different lead types. There's a direct request, and that is when someone is reaching out directly and specifically to you. So that's like the hottest of the hot lead. Then you've got a general match, which is where someone has put in a housing request to the system saying, I'm looking for XYZ, and your property in specific has exactly XYZ. So that's also a super hot lead, but you might not be the only one. It's not specifically and only to your property. There might be 10 properties that fit those criteria exactly. There might be 1,000, who knows? And then there's unmatched leads. And these are where the system identifies you as a close match for what the user has said that they are looking for, but not exact. So that gives you opportunity to communicate and see if there could be a fit. Like, hey, you're looking for a 3-bedroom. I have a 2-bedroom. You're looking for this move-in date. Are you flexible at all? Things like that, like even down to budget. So it gives you the opportunity to connect. And a lot of times users dismiss those unmatched leads. But there's a lot of potential in those because someone puts in their wish list doesn't mean that that's actually what they're going to settle on, or that they might have some flexibility. So it's always worth reaching out.
Yeah. And I want to lean into the part that the coming soon that you mentioned. I don't know about you guys, but so many times when you start marketing your property before it's even completely furnished, and when I say that, I mean you put coming soon in your headline or on your photos, and then you use your unfurnished photos from, when you bought the property or, whatever the current tenants were in there. You could ask them if you can take, photos for the next rental. And it's crazy how many times you can get it rented before you even have it furnished. And now you have a deadline of, okay, I've rented it out. I have to be ready by this date. We just closed on our newest property within the last couple weeks. And it's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home with a separate additional dwelling unit as well. That's a 300 square foot midterm rental. Talk about trying to get creative on
It's so teeny tiny.
Where you're going to store your clothes. We had to think of everything, like where are the dirty clothes going to go? Where are the clean clothes going to go? How is he going to cook in here without a proper oven and everything? And so we got one of those cool Ninjas that fold down, the Ninja oven and air fryer combo, so it saves space, but you can fold it down when you're ready to cook. We put a cutting board over half the sink to give you extra prep space, while you're doing that. And so it's really cool how when you just start furnishing your property, you can a lot of times get someone to book it before. And I've thought about putting it on Airbnb, and I thought, wait, that would be weird for a short-term rental to not have photos of the property because you can't talk to someone before booking. So really short-term rentals, to me, you can't start advertising them until they're fully furnished and you have your, professional photos, hopefully. But midterm rentals, you can start and you can upgrade along the way. So we're not going to have the opportunity to get professional photos, until this round of guests move out. And that's okay because, when it's time, we're going to get those professional photos. What about you guys? Katie, how does it work out for you?
I will always put them up as soon as I can. 100% I'll put them up unfurnished. I'll use just pictures from the listing or MLS if it's one we're purchasing. And I'll put coming soon. I'll make sure that's really clear in the headline with a date it'll be done. I will also, there's a box you can check when you're filling out your property listing that just says, furnishing coming soon or currently being furnished. I don't remember the exact verbiage, but you get the point. And then you just make sure that you let everybody know. And I always let them know because they're always curious what it's going to look like. And if you do have other properties, I'll say, hey, click on my landlord profile. You can see all my other properties. It's going to fit the mix, right? It's not going to be an outlier with like way different furnishings, either better or lower than that. Like this is kind of how we do it. Now, if you don't have multiple properties, you could always say, send them some of the furnishings that you're going to be using or some of your inspiration, or just even describing like, we're going to have a queen mattress. It's going to be, whatever it is. Cause, just making sure everybody feels comfortable with what's coming up. But, yeah, a lot of times people, they're flexible and they're just looking for the right fit.
Yeah. And Chris, having 15 properties at the midterm rental, having 15 properties on Furnished Finder, all within the one area, how does the cross marketing work out for you? Do you oftentimes find that while maybe the tenant leads or a message comes in about one property and then you realize, wait, this property would actually be a better fit, how often does that result in bookings with the cross-marketing opportunities?
Constantly. I mean, that is a constant thing. And that's why I reach out to every lead, because they'll look at one and say, no, it doesn't work, or it's only a 2-month window, but they need 3. And I say, hey, but we have several properties around Des Moines. How about this? Or as Katie mentioned earlier, I mean, when they're filling out their wants or their requests, it may not always be exactly what they need or have to need. So I'll say, hey, I know you asked for a 1-bedroom. Can you take a 2, or vice versa?
Mm-hmm.
It happens all the time. And we have several guests currently now that just happened because of that.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So let's circle back to that. And I think we didn't really get to it earlier because, conversation just moves along in a podcast, and that's good. Misfit properties. You have some 2-bedroom homes. You also have some 3-bedroom, 1-bath homes. So has your tenant pool felt limited with, one bath homes with the 3 bedrooms or your 2-bedroom homes, or who's been staying in your places?
Yeah, it's interesting. We didn't know what to expect for our 3-bedroom, 1-bath, but it's 2 blocks away from a hospital. So we're like, this is going to be pretty good, or we think it's going to be pretty good. And that was booked within a day of advertising it. And that was just actually that individual is just a single nurse by himself, and he wanted a lot of space. And so he took that 3-bedroom, 1-bath house. And then the next 2 bookings after that were actually some dental students from the University of Iowa. And so they came through for their rotations, and they stayed there for 6 weeks, and they told their classmates, and then their next classmates came through with that. But no, that hasn't been an issue with the 3-bedroom, 1-bath. I think when you have, 2-bedroom, 1-bath, we have with a lot of our duplexes, that seems to be the bread and butter. I mean, you get that one person that's okay with 2, especially in that price range. And then you also get somebody that has a travel buddy, and that works out just great for them. So no, we haven't had any issues with difference in 2, 3, and then 1 bathroom.
I'm gonna speak from my perspective. Same idea as like I mainly have 3-bedroom, 2-bath homes because that's what we like for some reason and feel comfortable with. And a majority of the time, I would say it's typically 2 people living in the home, and maybe they'll have their grandkids over, or they'll have family come and visit while they're staying there. But it's been rare to have 4 to 6 people. It's like a lot of times it's 2 or 3 people.
Yeah, it's definitely midterm travelers are flexible, right? So just because you have a 3-bedroom doesn't necessarily mean you'll only get families. You probably will get some families inquiring, but you won't only get that. People are flexible.
Yeah, and we're getting in for that house. I mean, we were getting 995 long term. We're getting 2,000 on that house for midterm.
That was my next question for you is you're transitioning a lot of these properties long-term to midterm. What is the rent income difference you're seeing?
So anywhere from $400 to $1,000 is kind of where our sweet spot is of what we're seeing, depending on the type of property that it is.
I love that. Yeah. That's especially as you're thinking about acquiring newer properties, long-term rentals are getting harder and harder to cash flow. You might just break even, which is fine if you're in it kind of for the equity game. But it's a great way to transition those into higher cash flowing properties.
And I think it's important to understand from this space is not only are you getting higher rents, but every time we have a guest leave, it looks exactly the same as when they first moved in. So I don't care if I'm making $100 more than a long-term tenant or 1,000. To me, it doesn't really matter. It's about the property because we were putting so much money into those turnovers every single time before, and now we don't. And there's never those big repairs. Now, again, you're going to have your basic
Sure.
heaters and air conditioning
Yeah.
things that's going to happen no matter what. But it's a really nice thing when the cleaners go in there and they tell you it looks absolutely pristine. That's what really makes us happy.
How often does
Yeah.
it happen with you guys that it looks better? Like, and maybe like the cleaner
Yeah,
still needs to come through, right? But I have
yeah,
pretty frequently where I will have my tenants like they'll buy a mirror and they'll add it, or they'll buy something for the kitchen and they'll leave it, or they'll buy, and sometimes my cleaner will send me the pictures and I'm like, well, that stuff's new. It's like they leave little parting gifts or something, and it's cool.
Mine was it was a centerpiece on one of our tables. They had added some color foliage to it instead of I had just like whites and golds maybe. And I showed up. I'm like, oh wow, that looks nice. I'll keep it. And so they really elevated the display. I already liked it, but now I liked it even more. Any examples for you, Chris?
Uh, just basic things like that. Like they'll add a little bit here, or I mean, even like somebody wanted the electric kettle. So just little things that they wanted, and then they didn't take because they knew another traveling professional is coming behind them, and maybe they could use it. And so just adding little additional things like that, it's neat to see that from individuals that yeah, they take care of the place and they're willing to do whatever it takes to make it nice for the next person as well, which I think is pretty cool.
I had one tenant who it was one of her first Christmases away from home, and she bought some decorations for the unit. And when she moved out, she was like, "Hey, I don't need to take these with me, but just if you want them for your next tenant, if they celebrate Christmas, like there you go." So, our next tenant who's there over the holiday, I'm gonna be like, "If you open that cabinet, there's some seasonal decor for you." But it's just little stuff like that makes them feel at home.
For sure. Well, I think we will wrap up with Chris. Tell us how you want others to connect with you. Do you want to tell us, about top shelf property management? How would you like to wrap up with last advice?
Yeah, no, I think it's great. I mean, I think first of all, I appreciate this. What an honor, pleasure to to talk to you about all of this here, and I love this. This is a lot of fun. Yeah, from a top shelf property management standpoint, yeah. So not only do we do the investing aspect of it, but I have a business partner in the property management business, so that keeps us busy. But we're implementing a strategy there as well. So right now we have over close to 500 doors that we manage, and the majority of those are obviously long term. Been around for about 11 years now. But what we're doing is with the success that we're seeing on the midterm side of it now, we're starting to have some discussions with our owners that we currently have. We have about 110 owners that we work with, and we are starting to have these same discussions. Hey, we think your property could be a good opportunity to go into what we call this midterm strategy.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we're seeing is the interest now on that when their leases are up, they are now willing to do that. So we're having those conversations, and now we've actually switched three over to that strategy now. And so the owners of those properties are really enjoying this because they were dealing with the same things before with all the repairs. And so it's been a big, big thing for us at Top Shelf. And so we're also working with the partnership, the growth and partnership as well. And we're trying to incorporate different ways to figure out the best way to merge not them together, but how we can put maybe some widgets on our webpage that takes us to Furnished Finder. And so how do we incorporate that? We're working with the partnership team to do that as well, because we want to be able to advertise on our own website for that. That takes us to our Furnished Finder findings.
Yes, I've seen someone do that before. It was a great display, and it was a way to keep your website, your personal website simple, but then have the actual link go to your Furnished Finder property for the booking process.
Yeah, that's exactly what the things that we're really wanting to incorporate into our top shelf property management business, and exposing the midterm rental strategy to a lot more individuals. And I think it's going to be a good opportunity for many owners. But yeah, as far as the way to connect with me, I mean, a few different ways to do that. So my email is chris@topshelfpm.com. That's probably the easiest way to get a hold of me. Topshelfiowa.com is our website. And then I have some social media coming out soon, and that's going to be at Chris Dickey Real Estate, and that's going to be across all platforms.
Love it. Well, it was so good to talk to you. We love how you're just so forward thinking and just really making some big moves in the space and sharing that knowledge and just getting creative with the properties you have and then how to scale as well. So keep in touch, and we can't wait to hear from you again.
Thank you. I think I'll see you at the Midterm Rental Summit, maybe.
Woo! Oh yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Yes.
I'll be there. Yeah, we'll see you out
will.
there.
All right.
Okay.
See you then.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye-bye.